I am extremely pleased to be here today, especially to talk about this particular issue, which is science diplomacy, particularly in times of political strain. What we're going to do is I will give some brief opening remarks. I will introduce our three speakers. They will each come up individually, give their presentations. We will go through the three speakers, and then we will open up the floor to a Q&A with all of them at the same time. Sound like a plan? All right. The acceleration of scientific and technological change, the global spread of expertise and knowledge, and the complex nature of the challenges our world faces have convinced almost all countries, which we deal with every day, that they must collaborate across borders in this highly competitive and interconnected world in order to ensure a more prosperous future for their people. From ensuring public health, adequate food production, water quality, clean energy technologies, climate change mitigation, biodiversity protection, disaster preparedness, cybersecurity, and even to physical security. There's certainly no shortage of challenges for which science and technology may have the solutions. Science and technology have become important strategic assets in every country's arsenal, and building this capacity in-house has become an imperative around the world. However, there is also renewed recognition that countries need to work together to find national and global solutions. In today's world, the answer can truly come from anywhere and will, more often than not, be an idea or solution that is developed and tested by teams that span national and institutional borders. So how do we enable this to happen? Surely, the answer is to promote vigorous exchanges between our scientists and innovators, to let ideas flow and have organic networks of individuals with solutions exploding all over the world, to create seamless pathways of communication and mobility between governments, academia, and investors. But how to ensure that we surface the talent and find the ideas when the channels are less than open? I started out believing that diplomacy had to open doors for science. When I first came to Washington, D.C. as a AAAS fellow, that was my primary objective. It was the right thing to do. Some years into my time as a science policy advisor for our foreign policy decision makers, I have come to believe that science can also open doors for diplomacy. My trip to Cuba last April to promote scientific exchanges in several areas, including neurosciences and infectious disease, among other topics, with many of the colleagues in this room, and months before the president's announcement last December of a new direction in US policy towards Cuba, embodied that promise of science diplomacy in addressing common interests, even with a difficult relationship. It is a very unique feeling to know that you work on an issue that rises above political differences, but that can also lift people. My colleagues here today, that I will introduce you to now, have experienced this same feeling and are going to share their thoughts on the importance of science for diplomacy and diplomacy for science, especially in times of strain.